Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Today we have a whole bunch of spring gardening questions, from shrubs to lawns to organic gardening, and a few general gardening questions too. It's the Q&A show next on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. It's spring and many gardeners are getting the plants in the ground, hoping for beautiful flowers and a big harvest. We thought we would gather some timely questions we have answered over the past few months, but have not had time to air. Hopefully these will help you out as you start another year in the garden. Let's start with a few questions about fungus. How would I treat Sclerotina fungus in my vegetable garden? And this is Dan from Clarkston, Missouri. He wonders if he should spray fungicide on the ground. All right, and this is Sclerotina fungus, which is also called white mold.
Yeah.
Right, so what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, he's having that problem probably because things are too wet. So we got to dry things up, maybe plant up, and it can last in the soil for up to 3 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, I mean, I don't know if actually spraying the soil is going to make much difference because it's the plants that are getting the disease, and you'd have to preventative spray them. You could do that on a program, but that's a lot of spraying. Most importantly, rotate your crops.
I agree.
I rotate in 4-year sections. I have tomatoes and corn in 2 different sections that I rotate around for 4 different years until it's back in the same spot. And I think that will help out because if the sclera only lasts for 3 years in the ground, it's going to help him or get rid of some of that in his the plants that are having the problems with it.
Yeah.
But air circulation, like don't overcrowd your garden. I know we put 3-foot, we have a big enough garden that we can put 3-foot sections in them to keep air movement through the garden. And so that's going to be key, is keeping the air moving through the garden.
Right, yeah, it's an interesting question, crop rotation. I mean, we are talking about a vegetable garden, right? So crop rotation is going to be so important. You know me, cultural practices, do some research, look for some resistant varieties is something else I would consider. It's the area poorly drained. I mean, fix the drainage problem, correct that drainage problem, and practice good sanitation.
Yes.
Right, because those fungal spores are going to be there on that crop debris. So we got to make sure we get that crop debris out of there, and that's going to help.
And don't put those diseased plants in your compost pile.
Good point. Right.
Just, I mean, because that's going to just keep it going.
Right.
And then you just want to break the cycle.
How do I stop white leaf fungus on turnip greens? And this is Jackie. So what do you think about that one, Mr. D? White leaf fungus.
That, I don't know. Is that downy mildew, powdery mildew, white rust?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'd say
exactly
downy mildew is what I would suspect.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the first thing I would do is make sure that you're not watering at the wrong time. You don't want to water so that the leaves stay wet, too much. So that's I'd try the cultural things is what I would try first, and then continue to have problem. There are fungicides that you can use, sulfur and some of the fixed copper that will help control that. But the main thing is try not to keep the leaves wet. Water. I say in the morning when it has time to dry off, rather than don't water late in the afternoon, and that will help a bunch. I mean, what else? Anything else?
Clean up the plant debris,
so practice good sanitation.
Overwinter during, and then it's a good idea to rotate the cruciferous, every 3 years,
Rotation.
because they can tend to carry over disease
Always.
in the soil, so that can splash back up on infect the plants. And definitely don't go out there and pick them when the dew's on, because you're going to move the pathogens around in the moisture. And let's see, there was something else. Oh, no overhead sprinklers, like you say.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to keep the foliage wet, especially going into the night.
Right.
You know, so, and then I like chlorothalonil.
Okay.
You know, for powder and mildew. It's a real broad spectrum, and it's labeled for pretty much all the vegetables, roses, things like that. But, I like the way he worded, how do I stop it?
Yeah,
you can't stop it. You can prevent it and kind of slow the progression.
We can't
you
stop
know,
it.
But yeah, can't really stop a disease once it gets started,
it's
but
there,
you can
that's
sort
right.
of control it or prevent it, somewhat.
Somewhat. So
Yeah.
there you have it, Jackie. We appreciate that question. Yeah, I would also do some homework. Maybe some resistant varieties out there.
Yep.
So it might be-
Certified clean seed and healthy transplants,
Maybe.
you know, that kind of thing.
What vegetables are best for beginner gardeners? And this is Amy from Memphis, Tennessee. So what do you think about that, Dr. Kelly?
I've worked with
For
school
beginners.
gardens,
Yeah, I know
for
you do.
beginners, and school gardens are kind of interesting because the teachers want things that they can, a short crop that they can grow, start in the fall
Yep.
when the kids come back to school,
Right.
or can do in the spring and have something going on before they leave, you know, in the middle of May or whenever they go. So it usually kind of tends to be those things that are producing quickly, like radishes is a real favorite. You know, carrots, lettuces, you know, and the different leaf greens. Those are real fast, real quick satisfaction for the kids, you know, to say, and they can make their own salad, you know, from their greens, from their lettuce. And of course, they can grow tomatoes. You know, they can do some of the ones that are more fruit quicker. You know, the teacher would have to look at from plant to harvest.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many tomato cultivars out there. Some of them
yes,
produce
plenty.
quicker than others.
Plenty.
They have the patio types. But anyway, she could do a little research on that. But I'd say radishes, carrots, lettuce, tomatoes, any leafy green. Those would be the simple, easy ones for little ones to have something quickly. You know.
I would agree with that, because he is trying to start a school garden.
Yeah. And it's kind of, you know, you can't grow like watermelon. You can't grow sweet potatoes.
Probably
You
stay
know.
away from habaneros.
Yeah. Stay away from the hot peppers. Yeah.
Can I grow vegetables in a naturally organic and pesticide-free manner and get consistent results? And this is Michael from Connecticut. He says he gets mixed results each year. So Peter, all right, you're from up that way.
I am.
Right?
I grew up in Maine,
Yeah,
yep.
okay,
That's where I
you
learned to
know a little
garden.
bit about this,
Yep.
right? So here's my thing. Can you really get consistent results? Yeah.
Well, I'll just tell you the way that we gardened
Okay.
when I was growing up is we were organic till we couldn't.
Okay. Dude, we could. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
So if we didn't have to spray, we didn't spray.
Okay.
Now, one of the great advantages of the northern areas that we
Let's
don't
hear
have
it.
to worry about here,
Yeah,
or
let's
we
hear it.
do have to worry about here, we don't have to worry about there, is that since the season is short and the winters are cold, a lot of the funguses and the bugs that we have down here in the south aren't a problem up there, or aren't as much of a problem up there.
So I'm jealous.
Yeah. So,
I'm jealous.
but the flip side is that you have a really short growing
Yeah,
season.
yes, so go ahead.
So, can you do it and get consistent
Yeah,
results?
consistent results.
Depends.
Depends, okay.
So, what you should do is you want to make sure when you're doing organic growing that you make sure that the soil is as healthy and as rich as possible.
That's good, yeah.
Give your plants as much of a chance to succeed there
Agreed.
as you can. Once you get through that, there are certain insecticides that you can use that are organic. So you can, selectively use them if you want to avoid using the harder, industrial insecticides, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Consistent results are hard though, even with all of that. And it's just, a lot of it has to do with the variability of the weather in each growing season. If it's this certain way this year, maybe this plant does really well, but next year it's going to be different, so this other plant's going to do really well. And you really, if you go back in history and read people's accounts of how their crops did, there's some years they did really good and some years they didn't do really good, and they didn't. This is pre-pesticides.
Sure. I'll follow
And
you.
so it's just kind of, grow enough that if half of it fails, it'll still work. And that's a terrible answer,
but it's reality, yeah.
It's reality.
It's reality.
Yep. And then also the other thing is learn what does very well consistently in your garden.
That's a good point.
And rely on that. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
for instance, in the family plot garden here, our peppers do really good every year. Our tomatoes don't do so good. And so, you know, if we kind of grow it for demonstration, but if we were growing it for production, then probably we'd lean towards peppers more than tomatoes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Wow. Okay. That's good. Yeah, that's good, Michael. Yeah, he's from up that way. Yeah, Maine. Yeah, he knows about that. Yeah, short growing season, but no pests and diseases.
Less.
Or less. Yeah, less. Yeah, but the cold. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using coffee grounds in a flower bed? And this is Chip from Hartford, Kentucky. Dr. Kelly.
Yeah.
We'll start with you first on
Yeah,
this one.
I'm a big coffee drinker.
Advantages,
Yeah.
Disadvantages.
Okay, I would say a pro would be, it does have some minute nutritional value, like 1 to 2% nitrogen, which is pretty minimal, but it's better than no percent. That's correct. So,
Right.
so you get a little nutritive value, and they say, now I don't know if this is actually real true or not, but if you fairly get a good layer of it, you can repel slugs and snails.
I've heard that.
You know,
Okay.
that
My
can-
wife swears that.
Okay.
She swears
Well,
by that.
there you go.
All right.
We have a
I've heard that.
testimonial here, and we
Okay.
believe that now. So, the thing, and when you dig it in, you know, to the soil, it improves soil structure.
Okay.
You know,
That's
because
what I
it is
know.
an
Okay.
organic matter,
Organic.
so it's going to improve soil structure.
All right.
Now, the cons are, I guess, because there's more than one, that excessive use of it, let's say you're trying to germinate some seed and you use coffee grounds to cover the seed, it can inhibit or hinder germination in some species, they say. So anyway, that's something to think about. So, and also, and I've done this.
Okay.
I have done this, being the lazy gardener that I am. I just dump all this stuff out around my, and you get a pile of it and then mold. It starts molding.
Oh, okay.
So don't put it too thickly, you know, because number one, when it dries out, it's going to impede, you know, percolation of the water through. But then it also, if it stays damp, it's going to start, those coffee grounds are going to start molding. And I think it's a old wives' tale that it can affect the pH, because they say that, I mean, maybe if you took the coffee beans and just threw them out there, the pH it's leached out into the coffee, so you're drinking the pH. The coffee grounds is more, the pH of actual coffee grounds is more like 6.8, which is neutral.
That's neutral.
Yeah,
Right.
it's neutral. So I know some people say that it does affect, but it would be very short term and very minute if it did. But
Okay. Wow.
that's why it gives you heartburn when you drink coffee.
Oh, wait, you call me. Okay.
Get that acidic burn, right?
How about that? So there are
Yep.
some pros and cons. I mean,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
other that you might know of, Mr. D?
No, I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages.
Yeah,
by much.
I
That's
think
what it sounds like.
I think the best way to use coffee grounds is a soil amendment.
Okay. Okay.
You know, throw it in your compost, work
Right,
it
yeah,
in,
work it in,
or work
yeah.
it in your soil.
Okay.
You know, and that's a good way to use it.
Okay,
You
soil
know, unless you got
structure,
snails
yeah.
and slugs. And
Yeah, unless you got that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What kind of plant is this? And this is Mary from Tampa, Florida. So, Joanne, what kind of plant is that?
Firebush.
Oh, firebush. Right, it's a beautiful plant.
Hamelia patens.
Wow, look at her.
It
Joe.
is an evergreen shrub.
All right.
It likes zones 8 through 11.
Tropical.
And sun, likes lots of sun.
So full sun. So yeah, probably drought tolerant, heat tolerant.
It probably
yeah, 'cause
is,
it's a
yeah.
tropical plant. Beautiful tubular, you know, flowers, red, orange.
I imagine hummingbirds and other birds
bet
like
you they love
to,
'em.
yeah,
I bet you they do.
other pollinators.
Right. Nice perennial. So yeah, I
Very
would
good.
grow that.
I would too.
I would grow that. It looks beautiful.
It is.
What is this weed growing in my garden? It has taken over. And this is Sharon from Valhalla, Mississippi. She says 2 years ago, she sprayed Roundup. But last year, guess what? It came back more than before. So, Joseph, what weed is that?
Yeah, it's called ground cherry, and it's in the Solanaceae family, nightshade family, and it will definitely come back. It's very aggressive.
Yep.
My recommendation is to get in there with hand tools dig as much of it out as you can, get rid of it, get as much of those roots out too, and then as it starts coming back up, you can definitely hit it up with a glyphosate product, especially when it's young and tender and small. It'll be more effective. And if it's coming up in other areas where you don't want to spray, you can go in there and just, we've used some glyphosate on a cloth and just kind of touched it and got it on there.
Yeah.
That way.
That way you can protect those desirable plants.
Yeah, and something you know to note about this plant is the unripe fruits and other parts of the plant are poisonous.
Right. They're very toxic.
Very toxic.
Yeah. Because I've seen this weed before. You usually see it in pastures, side of the road and things like that. So, yeah, you got to be careful.
Wear gloves.
Yeah, wear gloves for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely wear gloves.
Deep taproot system. This one has. So, yeah, if you break it off, right at the soil surface.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's going to be
You can
hard
have
to
more
get.
of it. Yeah.
It's going to be hard to get all of it
yeah,
out.
it's gonna be hard. So
You're going to have to keep fighting it.
you're gonna have to fight it. You're gonna
Keep on
have to
top
keep
of it.
digging. It's best to dig them out when the soil is moist. That'll help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
What causes fungus on tree trunks like crepe myrtles and maples? How do I get rid of them? And this is Martha from Heidelberg, Mississippi. So Peter, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so the fungus is black sooty mold, and it is growing on honeydew, which means that there is another problem. That's just a symptom.
Right.
So you either have a scale or you have aphids. So probably on the crepe myrtle, it's probably crepe myrtle bark scale. On the maples, it's probably aphids. And so what happens is both of those insects suck the sap out of the tree, out of the leaves or the branches. And then when they're done processing it, they secrete a sticky, well, it's sticky, but it's a sugary liquid.
Right, right.
And so that kind of drops as a mist.
Yeah,
almost.
honeydew.
Honeydew, yep, on whatever's underneath it. So the most convenient thing is the branches and the trunk. And so then the sooty mold comes along and lands on that and uses the sugar to grow. And so that's how you have that. Now, how do you take care of it? So on the crepe myrtles, if it's crepe myrtle bark scale, probably the best way to do it is to use a systemic drench. So you could use a midacloprid, read and follow the directions on that. There are some very specific, because crepe myrtles tend to be multi-trunked, there's specific instructions on how to handle that. But yeah, you just take it, mix it with the correct amount of water, put it on the ground. The tree takes it up through the roots, it goes through the whole tree. When they suck the sap, they get the insecticide, they die.
That's what we mean by systemic.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
For the aphids, it depends on how big your tree is. If it's a maple,
it does.
if you have a smaller maple that you can actually spray all the way to the top of the tree, you can use a horticultural oil.
Right.
Once again, read and follow the directions. Some of those oils you can only use certain times of year. They will damage the tree if you use it at the wrong time or in the wrong conditions.
That's good.
But those will coat the aphids with oil and it will kill them. If it is too tall of a tree, once again, you can go with a systemic drench like a midacloprid. And that, once again, they suck it, they get the insecticide, they die.
All right. That was good.
Yeah.
So, Joseph, anything you want to add to that?
To help with the sooty mold and some of the insect issues, you could go in and kind of thin the tree out a little bit, do a little pruning, let a little bit more sunlight get in there, and a little bit more air to get in there.
Okay.
And you can do that for both the crepe myrtle and the maples.
Right.
And that'll help.
Yeah, Mother Nature will help you out a little bit.
It will.
With the sooty molds. Just have to be patient over time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's scales or aphids, I mean, we have our control options.
Yep.
For sure.
Now, for the sooty mold itself, that's harder. If it's on the plant, that's harder to get rid of.
It's gonna be hard. Yeah, like I said,
so
Mother
just
Nature's gonna have to help you.
just let it die because it won't have food anymore, and it'll eventually slough off. It may take a couple years.
It may.
If you have, if you have sidewalks underneath it or whatever, you're going to see the sooty mold there. You can just pressure wash it. That's fine. But you can't really scrub the bark too much, or you're going to damage the tree.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that because the tree becomes more susceptible to
insects.
borers and other insect pests. So that's a good point. What is this yellow stuff growing on my Japanese maple? And this is Peggy. And Miss Peggy, thank you for the picture. So what is that yellow stuff?
Well, it's some kind of fungal disease on the tree. And one thing that's interesting to me from the picture is that particular branch, even though it's fairly large,
Yes, large. Yeah.
is kind of coming up and around and crossing over another branch.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if maybe on the backside where we can't see, it's touching it and maybe girdling itself just slightly. And maybe that's what's caused, you know, some of the problems with the disease
good.
entering that particular branch. And I would ask, we can't see on the picture, but is the foliage on that plant doing okay on that section? If not, maybe you can cut the whole branch section out.
Right.
It would get rid of the diseased part, and it still wouldn't make it look bad because the rest of the tree is multi-trunk and looks pretty good.
Right, exactly. That's what I noticed on the picture too. Yeah, it's funny how our eyes go there, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at it, looks like it's wrapping around. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would have removed that a long
would-
time ago.
yeah, I would
but
have
yeah,
too.
you know, this is definitely a time to remove it.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing you're going to be able to spray, or
No.
anything like that. So I would cut it out.
Because it's
I would
rotting.
prune it out.
It's,
yeah, it's
ro-
rotting. Right.
the whole branch is rotting,
Yeah,
so
I would.
just remove it.
I remove it. Yeah.
And
examine the rest of the
Yeah.
tree to make sure it's doing fine.
Yeah. Give it some fertilizer
yep.
this spring.
Yep. That's what I would do. Do gardenia bushes go dormant? Mine seem to, but they never come back. And this is Pamela from Spokane, Washington on YouTube. So, Jordan,
Yeah.
the old gardenia bush, you know a little bit about that, don't you?
My parents loved gardenias.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid she's going to have to do, like, we are a zone 7 here.
Yeah.
And Spokane, Washington is 6B. So that's about the upper limit of what the cold hardy gardenias will live in. But they are not deciduous. So they are considered evergreen shrubs. So when they lose leaves, the thought of them coming back is not good.
Right.
Even I've planted some, and we had some extra cold winters, and
Yes, we had.
they died, and they tried to come back from the roots or from some of the top shoots that were protected, but they did not look the same. And they're just going to do like my parents did. My mother loved gardenias, and she's living in the South now. She thought she could go ahead and have them, and they died every winter down and come back and be beautiful green and bushes, and then they die down and come back and they'd be beautiful green bushes, and they never bloomed. Found out that they like to bloom on the second year growth. So she was only getting first
good.
year. So they dug them up, put them in pots, and they
Yeah.
rolled them in and
them in.
outside during the winter to keep
Yeah.
them safe. And they did bloom beautifully.
Wow. Yes, that's probably what you have to do. Anything you want to add to
Yeah.
that, Joseph?
No, I think Joellen covered
Yeah.
everything. Is, you know, if you wanted to keep it growing good, probably have to bring it in.
Yeah, because we
Every
definitely at
one.
the edge here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know she's in Spokane, but
Yeah, that's even.
Yeah, 6B, 7, yeah.
Yeah.
Temperatures, what, 0 to 5, I think is what that
Yeah.
is. Yeah, so they're not covered up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
I mean, she might experiment, and she might take some straw and, really try to cover it up
Yeah.
and protect it, and see if that even helps. But I don't know.
I can't get cap tan anymore. What should I use to replace it for my fruit trees? And this is Steven. He said he has heard it is no longer legal. So let's tackle this first, Joseph. Can't get cap tan anymore. What can he do to replace it?
To
Or what
replace
can
it?
he use to replace it?
Well, any good copper-based fungicide, like a copper sulfate, copper hydroxide, they're really good products, and they're readily available.
Yeah.
You can get them just about anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, they're found in some other products. It's
They
something
are.
that we do recommend, UT Extension.
Yeah.
Using Captan and some of your orchard sprays, fruit tree sprays,
Fruit
and
tree
things
sprays,
like that.
yeah, that has it.
Yeah,
in
it
it.
has it in there. Specifically, some of the products you can use to replace Captan, though, you mentioned, the copper hydroxides, right?
Yeah.
So there's also a couple more, though. I mean, there's Xyram, which
Yeah.
you can use, I know, and it's safe for fruit trees. Apple scab, peach leaf curl, black rot on grapes, control those. But you can also use myclobutanil. So myclobutanil controls those same diseases, right? So those are some that you can use to replace, the Captan, if you like, all right? So let's address this one, Peter, though. He says that he has heard it is no longer legal.
Okay.
Okay. So what have you found out about
Well,
that?
that's not true.
Okay.
It is legal. In 2024 and into 2025, the EPA is doing its regular review of Captan.
Right.
That's something it does every 15 years for all of the garden product chemicals that we use.
Okay.
So nothing new. But it reviews, it's in the process of being reviewed. Doesn't mean it's illegal.
Right.
Doesn't mean
Exactly.
that it's going to be approved either. But probably it will be. Because it is a critical fungicide for fruit production.
No doubt. For production,
Both
no doubt.
at home and commercially.
That's right.
I did a search. The places, there are some places that don't have it anymore. It says sold out. There are some places that have very limited supplies, but if you look on, I did a Google search for it and it's there. Just, you're gonna have to buy it from a smaller company. You know, Amazon doesn't have it, really.
Right.
So, or is very expensive. So yeah, just do a Google search and look, and you can find it. It's there.
It is there. It's definitely there. Yeah, you can check with your local extension office. They may know. We can get a supply, of Captan, but it is definitely a product that is used in fruit production, right? Because it attacks the fungus, of course, of those fruits, and then allow it to continue its life cycle and such. But yeah, it's definitely something that we recommend, for sure. It's a part of any fruit tree spray schedule.
It is.
All right, so read and follow the label. I think you'll be good. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplots@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. To get more information on anything we talked about, go to familyplotgarden.com. We have all these questions listed on the home page. We also have answers to over 1,000 other viewer questions. So if you have a gardening question, we have probably answered it. If not, you can ask us your question right from the website. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.